Oh, my name's Jim Hinckley. I live here in Kingman, Arizona. You can cue the Twilight Zone music at any point in the story, but pretty much everything major in my life since 1959 has been tied to Route 66. And yes, I really am that old. We moved west in the summer of 1966 from Michigan and followed Route 66. My dad bought some property sight unseen, and it was on the pre-1952 alignment of Route 66 in the shadow of the Black Mountains in western Arizona. My very first paying job was working for Ed Edgerton at Ed's Camp. I took care of his tomato gardens, and I learned to ride a bicycle on Route 66 so I could get to work. And since we hauled water, I learned to drive a truck on Route 66. And then when my wife and I were courting about 35 years ago, I was working ranches out of Chino Valley. I had a 1946 GMC truck. They really didn't take kindly to me having that on the interstate highway, so I'd drive into town on weekends on Route 66. And long before it was popular, I was working ranches out of Seligman, and I'd come into town to a fellow named Angel Delgadillo's barbershop to get my fur trimmed up. And one thing led to another. I started, with encouragement from my dearest friend, I started writing, initially about automotive history, the American auto industry from 1885 to 1940. But since I've got a passion for travel, and I've traveled Route 66 at least once almost every year since 1966. And people said I had a gift for telling people where to go. So I started combining my automotive writing with travel writing. And to date, I've written 16 books on various subjects, everything as obscure as the Checker Cab Manufacturing Company to the history of seat belts and highway striping. And then I've written quite a few Route 66 books, the Route 66 Illustrated Route 66 Historic Atlas, the Route 66 Encyclopedia, and most recent book was Route 66, America's Longest Small Town, about the Route 66 Renaissance, specifically the people behind the Renaissance. Well, you know, like so many people, we just took Route 66 for granted. And to be honest, this is probably the best time in the history of the road, because you can have your cake and eat it too. When it was the highway, it really wasn't that much fun. But now you can drive it. It's fun. It's like a 2,000-mile-long theme park. But what it means to me is simply, the best way to put it, my mom said I was born 90 and I never got any older. I've always liked life simple and slow. And I love colorful characters. And now I guess I've gotten old enough to be one of those colorful characters, but it was always there on Route 66. There was a spirit, a vibrancy about the place. It was a refuge. When a place where I could get back to reality, if you will. Break away from the grind. If I was working in the city, if I was working in Detroit, or if I was working in some Fargo, North Dakota, once I got back on Route 66, there was a sense of normalcy. And it just felt right, like a good pair of old boots or well-washed Levi's. Boy, that's really difficult because, well, like, the stretch from for the 160 miles of smiles that we have here in western Arizona, for scenery, you can't beat that. I mean, Stevie Wonder can't take a bad photograph. It's just nice. For context, really experiencing Route 66 as a bridge between the past and even the future, it would have to be the pre-37 alignment of Route 66 up from Santa Rosa through Santa Fe. The history there is astounding. But I love the Ozarks a lot, and it reminds me of growing up. I spent a lot of time, even though we lived here, my mom's family had farms in North Alabama and Tennessee, and the people. It's difficult because I worry on one hand, of course, I guess I'm just a worrywart, but I've worried for 15 years that this is a fad that's going to pass or it's going to wane. And actually the interest seems to be growing exponentially in the highway. I see it as always, the road's always been about evolution from its very inception. Route 66 in 1930 was not the Route 66 in 1950. And people worry about things and they get upset about, like Ambler, Texaco and Dwight, that they put in electric vehicle charging stations. But that's the ghost of Christmas future. Route 66 has always been a blending of the past and the future. And I see, as we move further and further into a cold, impersonal, technical world, the importance of Route 66, its warmth and its tangible ability to touch the past and the people. I think that's going to increase in value and popularity. You know, I get in so much trouble without even trying. I almost have developed a split personality with this whole Route 66 thing. In my mind's eye, I'm just some lowly redneck out here in Podunk, Arizona. But because of my books, my speaking engagements, arranging special events for tour groups that stop in Kingman, and helping the Promote Kingman initiative, working with the city of Kingman, and speaking in Europe, I've developed, I guess, kind of a reputation. So it's kind of odd for this redneck from Podunk, Arizona to have people stop him and say, "Would you sign my t-shirt?" Or if I'm in Antwerp, you know, I was in Amsterdam and there's a big display of my books in a bookstore. And it just seems kind of odd. But basically I try to provide a community service for the international Route 66 community. And that means books, telling people where to go, giving people directions when they get a hold of me through my website or on Facebook, and trying to lend as much support as I can to the businesses and the people who are traveling this road. We're on the cusp of it, I hope. We need a reincarnation of the U.S. Highway 66 Association. If you will, this is Michael Wallace says Route 66 is a linear community. So we need a chamber of commerce for that community. And the U.S. Highway 66 Association did a very good job from 1927 forward. And we've had some great attempts at doing that, the Route 66 Alliance and the National Route 66 Federation. But my hope is in this Road Ahead Initiative Steering Committee that's now the Road Ahead Partnership. That's the closest I've seen to coming to an incarnation of that old U.S. Highway 66 Association, providing the lobbying efforts, magnifying, not dictating, but magnifying the efforts from the grassroots for preservation, for marketing, for advertising, and keeping this thing going. Buy Jerry McClann's Easy 66 guide, and then create a very careful itinerary and schedule of all the things you want to see and how much time you want to spend at each place. And then when you get to Chicago and start your trip, throw that out the window. Well, of course, you know, you got to see Harley. You got to see that to believe it. Words can't describe that. But the road is as diverse as the countryside it traverses. You got to stop and see Angel. You know, if you get a chance, get a haircut from Angel. If you get a chance and you're fortunate enough, stop at the Ariston Cafe and spend some time talking to Nick Adam. Stop in Elkhart, Illinois, and talk to Peter at the Wild Hair Cafe. Peter and Mona at the Globetrotter. You know, these are all great people. And the flip side of Harley, but just about as bizarre, you could stop and see Crocodile and Amarillo. Route 66 is, a long time ago, it transcended its original purpose, connecting point A with point B. Somewhere along the line, it became almost magical. It became a larger-than-life type situation. And it's not the most scenic or the most historic highway, but it's always had the best press and publicity. And as a result, it's so much larger than life. But perhaps one of the most amazing things about Route 66 is not just the fact that it is literally a community, but it is a family community. People from all over the world. You sit down and have pie with somebody in Adrian, Texas, and they're from Germany or Japan or France. And the next thing you know, you're talking to them on Facebook. And the next year you find yourself in Amsterdam. And the word gets out that you're there, and then 15 people that you've met along the road or somebody else, and you've got a family reunion on the road. You have a problem on the road. A perfect example is the situation now with Willem Boor's models. Willem Boor was an incredibly gifted artist that created miniatures and dioramas of places on the road. And he generously gave them to museums and different things of that nature. And now with his death in January, the Dutch Route 66 Association worked a deal with a DHL, who's shipping them for free. They had a gentleman create museum quality shipping boxes for these models, and they're being distributed all up and down the road at no cost to anyone. This is Route 66. Last year in LA, we had the 90th anniversary celebration. Mike Ward simply put on Facebook, if he wants to get together in Pasadena, a block from the Saga, let's have dinner. We ended up with 61 people from 5 countries. And it was literally a family reunion. We've got all the quirky, weird relatives. So far, I've seen about every relative you can imagine except for the cross-dressing uncle. We've just got it all on Route 66. It is a family. Totally dysfunctional and a whole lot of fun. But this road, you know, it really is a family. I've never seen anything like this. I've run into, and it's an international situation. You know how it is like when you're in Europe. All you've got to do is hear that you're an American, or that you're wearing, say, a Route 66 hat or t-shirt. You can end up spending 2 hours in a pub or tavern. People you never met, and they're your best friends. The next thing you know, they're over here in Kingman the next summer, and you're having dinner with them.